everyone, Pam Gregory, astrologer. I'm going to be speaking to you today about the first half of June and the solar eclipse that we have coming up in Gemini on the 10th. Now, you'll be well aware, I'm sure, that we had an incredibly strong total supermoon lunar eclipse on the 26th of May, closest supermoon of the year. And that was really very much about endings. And the solar eclipse that we're going into is much more about new beginnings, but there's a lot to say here. When we are within eclipse season, it can feel as if we're sort of between worlds, because if you imagine at eclipses, the light is often cut off to the earth, and it's almost like rebooting your computer. There's a kind of interrupted or juddering effect, and then we restart the computer, but it's almost like we start it from a higher level. Very often, as I say, endings and beginnings happen around the eclipses. Excuse me, they are always intense, and we will feel this energy for a further 6 months, although it's strongest at the time the eclipses are happening. So this, as we go into June, we will feel intensity all the way through. And remember that eclipses are like quantum jumps. They're discontinuous. They're a little bit like Uranus transits. They do not operate predictably. And so they can bring some wonderful opportunities too, particularly solar eclipses. Remember also that we have an enormous amount of photonic light pouring onto the Earth, because the Earth is now moving through the photon belt. It hasn't done that for approximately 12,000 years. And what that is doing is widening the potential bandwidth of frequency for humanity, widening the potential bandwidth of frequency for humanity. So to unprecedented levels in our lifetime. So I'm noticing this with people around me. If they are able to hold more light coming in the body, they're becoming more crystalline, if you like, and we are able to hold more light in the body if we are generally in a positive state. And when we can do that, as I say, I'm noticing that people's frequency is going in kind of mini but still quantum jumps into levels that they haven't seen in a lifetime. So this is very exciting, because this really is one of the key signatures of the evolution of humanity. Now, we have a few, to get into the detail, we have a few spiky days right at the start of the month. On the 2nd of June, we have Mars in Cancer, which can give us a kind of an emotional vulnerability, squaring Eris in Aries. Eris is the female awakener, often the street fighter, somebody who takes to the streets to protest. And therefore, it's often a signature for people waking up, perhaps because they have this sense of emotional vulnerability, which is what takes them onto the streets. So we're likely to see that. 2nd of June is just 4 days after, I know, many big demonstrations are happening across the world. But yet by the 5th, we have transiting Pluto opposing Mars, and that's a kind of forceful control coming in. Pluto's in Capricorn, so this could be government, again, rules and regulations coming in. So just a few kind of strong energy, yang energy days, and quite spiky. Then we get into the solar eclipse. This happens on the 10th of June. It is at 19 degrees 47 minutes of Gemini. It happens at 3:52 a.m. Pacific and 11:52 a.m. UK time. Now, this is a North Node eclipse. Solar eclipses are always big full moons, big new moons, so they're always new beginnings. So check where 19 degrees 47 minutes of Gemini is in your chart. And if you don't know, you can download a free birth chart from our website. You can go to this link above and buy a two-part tutorial teaching series that will teach you how to find all these points that I talk about in every update in your chart and what it means for you. But this is the perfect time to plant a new seed, to set a clear intention for what you want to manifest in your life based on where 19 degrees of Gemini is falling in your chart. As I say, this is also a North Node eclipse. At any eclipse, the moon has to be close to either the north end of the transiting nodal axis or the south end. In this case, it's close to the north end. So the North Node is our future collective destiny. It's where we're headed. where we need to be headed, if you like. And so that emphasizes the new beginning side, the initiatory side of this solar eclipse. Now, we have a lot of mutable energy at this time. We have 5 planets in mutable signs plus the nodes. We have Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces, and we also have the Sun, Moon, Mercury in Gemini, all mutable signs. Now, this can really, mutable is chameleon-like, it's shape-shifting, it's fluid, it's not fixed. And so it's very creative. It enables us to see things from different points of view. And the energy that we're going into is really quite complex, because on the one hand, because we've only got one planet in a fixed sign here, which is Uranus in Taurus, and Uranus wants to kind of shake up Taurus anyway, shake up the stability of what we've known in the past to achieve something better. All of this mutability can give us a slight feeling perhaps of destabilization, or the anchors are off in some way in certain areas of life. By the way, it's going to be contradicted by a very strong Saturn, which I'll be talking about in a moment. But nevertheless, what this says to me is that we have more malleable modeling clay with which to create our future. That's how I'm seeing it with all of that mutability. So use it in that way. Now, this is a very mercurial Gemini solar eclipse, because Gemini is ruled by Mercury, but Gemini here is also conjunct the Sun and Moon at 20 degrees of Gemini. So it's really within a degree of the Sun and Moon. And Mercury is also retrograde. So this really puts the focus in our heads. Gemini is mental processes, our thinking processes, very much our self-talk. So one of the key things in this at this solar eclipse, because it allows us to make a new start, if you like, a new beginning, is to really observe your self-talk. Because our self-talk tends to run in the background without us even being aware of it 24/7. You know, I'm not smart enough, young enough, rich enough, pretty enough, you know, whatever the kind of, you know, grunge is sort of running in the background. So do try and catch it. And I've suggested many times, just stick Post-it notes around your house, on the bathroom mirror, kitchen cupboards, whatever, saying, what are you thinking about? What's your frequency? Because that will help to get you into a new habit of thinking more positively, thinking differently, catching yourself to change the habit, the thinking habit. However, at this solar eclipse, strong mental buzzy energy, and there's going to be a lot of information coming in at us at this time. Gemini loves to pick up information like a magpie, a lot of information. However, we have Neptune in Pisces, 23 of Pisces, squaring the Sun, Moon, and Mercury. So this brings in a very different quality of, no, don't stay in the head, drop into your feeling, drop into your intuition. Pisces isn't a mental process at all. It's an intuitive process. It's a psychic sensitivity. So it may well be that you need to connect to source, to oneness. You need to drop into an altered state in your meditation, or you're listening to beautiful music to find the truth, because there's going to be a lot of information and disinformation coming at us at this time, even more than we've had before, I think. So shift from the head to the feelings, to the intuition at this time. Now, the upside also of this Neptune square is it can make us, as I say, very creative, much more imaginative. It can really help the imagination to stretch, and writing, any kind of creativity, but Gemini is very linked to writing, speaking, so it can help the imagination in that way. At a lower level of expression, it can create a kind of fog or confusion or overwhelm, or it's just, all this information is just too much for me. So again, just drop into your body, drop into your feelings. And your body is your kind of tuning fork, if you like, to tell you what the truth is, truth of any situation. But there is going to be a lot coming at us. Now, disinformation has been rife anyway, but as we move through this period, my sense is that this is a new start in communication. and of various kinds. For instance, Saturn, the planet of control and rules and regulations, is moving through Aquarius. Aquarius is linked to social media. Saturn is now retrograde. So this may mean that there is more control coming in social media. Gemini is also the sign of social media. It's the sign of chatter, if you like. So there could well be more control coming in there. And that will force or spawn, I think, many more social media platforms that are promising the truth. Because Gemini is a divergent sign. It's a mutable air sign. So I always think of when you shine light through a prism, the light splits into lots of different directions. So Gemini energy, as I say, is quick, it's speedy, it's agile, and it's very divergent, which adds to the creativity, seeing things from different points of view. And I think it will produce several much smaller social media channels. So we'll be moving from the bigger platforms where many of us been for a long time to smaller ones. We'll be in smaller groups then because of this scattering divergent effect, but nevertheless, there will be big developments in that area, I believe. And in passing, I know Donald Trump is not on many people's Christmas card list, but just to say his chart is very activated at this time because the solar eclipse at 19 of Gemini is activating his sun, his moon, his north node, and his Uranus. His sun, Uranus, and north node are all in Gemini. So his chart is really being lit up at the moment, and it's linked to a kind of sense of karma or fate or something because of the north node. We'll wait and see what happens. So Gemini is a speedy sign. I think of Puck in Shakespeare. It's hopping about, gathering information, and with the intensity of the eclipses as well, we're going to have a lot going on. So I'd really encourage you to become the observer. Get onto your eagle's perch, because if you can even just take that one step and view everything happening around you as a movie, then you start to realize that it isn't me doing the thinking. I'm actually above the thinking, watching the thinking, especially if you stick post-it notes around the house and can change your thinking. Then it can't just be you doing the thinking. You have to be in a slightly higher perspective. So even making that small shift to your eagle's perch can be another important step in becoming more conscious. One of the big themes of Gemini is choices. It's a dual sign. It's the sign of the twins. And I think Gemini people are always very aware of choices. Choices we're making now are possibly some of the most important in our lifetimes. So I'd really ask you to be wise in those choices and to choose by frequency. And what I mean by that is, in the past, you might have gone for a job that you knew was going to be incredibly hard work and a long drive away, but it paid a lot of money. But now, because we're moving into such an age of energy and frequency, with every choice you make, say to yourself, is this loving to me? Does it make my heart sing? Does it make me feel passionate? Can I feel my frequency rising in making this decision? Am I getting really excited about that possibility? And so let frequency be your guide in making decisions going forwards. That's another very important point. I'm going to come back to choices in a moment because I think they're so incredibly important at this time. The other important aspect at this solar eclipse in Gemini is we have Ceres, Ceres, goddess. She's an asteroid, goddess of harvests, grains, food supply, is exactly conjunct Uranus in Taurus at 12 degrees. Now, Uranus in Taurus in itself, because Taurus also represents our food, our agriculture, etc. Uranus is a disruptive quality. It's not steady. It's anything but steady. It's huge peaks and troughs. And so this is with Ceres being added into this in a tight conjunction. Ceres is conjunct Uranus the whole of June, by the way. but it's really exact at this solar eclipse. This is suggesting that there could be disruptions, issues around food supplies, could be caused by extreme earth events, Uranus in Taurus, earthquakes, volcanoes, extreme weather, etc. Whatever the cause, I would just very calmly plan to have some long-dated food in your house that you love to eat. So if there is any slight hiccup in the food supply, there's no panic. You're prepared, you're planned, it's all fine. I've been talking for about 2 years now about the fork in the road. I think this fork in the road is clearer and wider because of the increase in bandwidth, the frequency potential, clearer and wider than we have ever seen it before. It is going to get even clearer and wider. It's going to really be set, I think. So that's why your choice now is so important, because, you know, for many people, it isn't just I make this choice and then maybe in a month I can change my mind and hop over to that one. As we well know, they're not those kinds of choices that we're being offered right now. So I feel this not only because of the Gemini energy highlighting choice, but also we have the dominating aspect all year, Saturn square Uranus, coming to its second exact square on the 14th of June, just 4 days after this eclipse. And as I've spoken at great length already this year, Uranus is freedom and Saturn is control. And that is going to become tighter round about this solar eclipse because, as I said, the first exact Saturn Uranus square happened on the 17th of February when we were all pretty much in lockdown. The second exact square will be on the 14th of June. The third exact square will be on the 24th of December. So there's usually an echo of what happened the last time. So we could be moving into a situation where there are more controls, more restrictions, because Saturn is stronger here, if you like. So be very aware of that fork in the road. And this may even start to change our day-to-day choices as well, because it's going to be so defining. Because I think very often if we're watching mainstream media, which I haven't done for about 16 months, it's been joyful, it can appear in all that density that there is only one reality, and that's the reality rubber hitting the road we see every single day. Yes, it's absolutely one reality, no doubt about it, but it isn't the reality. There are infinite numbers of reality, but it's hard to see if we're very captured in the density. But we have to get to our eagle's perch or observer position to start to perceive that there are other possibilities available to us. So again, I'd really encourage, just watch the day-to-day events as if it's a movie, because it is a movie. Just step back and think, what else is available to me? And remember that the game changer at this time on Earth is this very high frequency photonic light that we haven't had for about 12,000 years. That is enabling us to hold more light in our bodies if we stay in a good place, a positive place. So that is our game changer. It's almost like under the pressure that many of us may feel in the coming months, because I do think there'll be more control coming in the coming months, but it's how we react to that control. Diamonds are formed under pressure. We're becoming more crystalline. So don't forget, we're becoming diamonds. So the high frequency photonic light is the game changer. And if we can hold high frequency energy that we're broadcasting, then that is the checkmate. That is the antidote, because love is the highest frequency. And our thinking is super important here, because our thoughts are electrical impulses. That's the start point. They create our emotions, our feelings, which are magnetic waves. And the two of those thoughts and feelings combine to produce our set point of frequency. And so this is super important to be aware of all of this happening, because I mentioned some time ago an analogy that some of you may have found helpful. I was talking about, say you're going to a theatre one night, and there are two possible plays that you can choose from, back to choice. Two possible plays you can choose from. There's a very dark, kind of scary play that doesn't end well. And when you go to the theatre, you're watching the darkened stage, and there are thought forms emerging onto the stage like ghosts. And they're kind of the trailer, if you like, the introduction to that particular play. But there's another play on that night, which is a really loving, joyful, full of uplifting, heart-filled emotions that ends beautifully. And equally, thought forms for that play are moving across a darkened stage, just like wisps, just like ghosts. But you have the choice which one is going to receive the spotlight that you're going to turn on. Where is your focus? Where is your attention going to be? Where are you going to switch on the spotlight? Because that will then enable, whichever play you choose, those thought forms to start to take on form and colour and start to act out the play. That is exactly how quantum physics works. So bring it back to you again. I've talked again many times in the past about your inner radio dial, how we can imagine that we have an inner radio dial that we can turn to different channels. We can turn to channel of depression, channel of fear, channel of joy, whatever. We can choose which radio channel that we tune into by turning our dial. But can you also imagine that there's a dimmer switch on that radio dial? A dimmer switch, so you can turn it to dim down, take the spotlight off the scary play and turn up the light on what you do want to focus on. Regard it as a dimmer light. And the way I deal with this day to day, because there's a lot of information coming in at us, and some of it is very scary. I think we all know that. And I'm sent information all day long, or I pick up something somewhere and think, I wish I hadn't seen that. And so I can feel my frequency drop. So what I will do instantly is I will shut my eyes, I will drop into my breath, and I'll either do the heart breath, where I imagine that I'm breathing in and out of the heart as if it's my lung, which slows and deepens your breathing. Or you can even go into the baby belly breath, how babies breathe. So you're not pushing, forcing anything. You're just allowing your tummy to expand, and that means the air can come in, and then naturally the air will leave. So you're allowing the breath to do it. And if you can do that for a little while, and then just imagine that you're pausing for a couple of seconds at the end of each inhale and exhale, and have 100% focus on your breath and your body. 100%. Not hopping into Gemini mind for your shopping lists. None of that. 100% focus. And within seconds, your frequency will rise. You will feel more peaceful. Many of the biomarkers in your blood will change, literally within seconds. And that's what I do if I get something, scary, wish I hadn't seen that. I take control of my dimmer switch. Costs nothing, it's all for free, don't have to go anywhere, don't have to do a course, don't have to drive anywhere. You then become much more in control of your frequency, and that ultimately defines your trajectory. Because if we can do this, if we can cultivate a sense of even just peace inwardly, the more often we do that, the more we are creating peace in our reality on the outside. Because as I said, this fork in the road is going to become very much clearer, very much wider. And therefore, we need to shift from any sense of the externals defining our reality, because that can feel really like the rubber hitting the road, and we feel quite like a victim at the mercy of all of this turbulence. Or we can shift our whole point of focus to becoming the creator, and that puts us in a much stronger position. And with regard to choice, as Gemini is all about choice, I was reminded just a few days ago of a really life-changing book that I read a few years ago, and I really recommend you read this. It's called The Choice. The Choice, you're probably seeing that backwards now, but called The Choice by Dr. Edith Eger, E-G-E-R. And it's a true story of her life. At 16, she was taken to Auschwitz with her family, and her parents were gassed on the first day. And I'm getting chilly now, it's absolutely chilling. And she describes what happens over that period in Auschwitz. And from that day one, she must have had a warrior spirit, because she became aware of, I have to choose every thought, every reaction, every point of focus, everything. And she found the smallest joy in blue sky or hearing a bird, the smallest joy. And she absolutely determinedly fixed on the positive, despite the horror that was all around her. And eventually she was one of the very few that survived, and she was dragged out of a pile of dead bodies. I mean, it was just beyond grim. So, and she survived, and she went on to do amazing things in her life and wrote this book. You know, it was absolutely life-changing for me. So she can do that in indescribably challenging circumstances without the support of her family. She did have a sister who survived, I think, for some of the time. But if she can do that, boy, we can do that too. So this is calling up our armor of light, let's call it that. This is calling up our armor of light to say that we will really start to put these super simple tricks into practice. I do them. I've done them for many years, and I truly do walk my talk with this. I truly do share what I've discovered along the way, and hope it's helpful for you. I think the other thing I'd really like to say here is that, just going back to the food issue briefly, Jupiter is in Pisces, as you may know. Jupiter in Pisces does wonderful things for our spiritual vision and getting more spiritual meaning in our lives. But the other way it could impact food is that Jupiter expands whatever it touches. Pisces is linked to oil and fuel. So because Jupiter is there, the price of oil and fuel is likely to increase, which will have a knock-on effect possibly to the price of food, because it has to be transported. So just hopping back to Ceres conjunct Uranus there. The other thing that I think is important at the moment, as well as this very tight Saturn-Uranus square that we're having, so we will feel those themes of freedom versus control more strongly in June. Mercury is already retrograde, but it goes direct on the 22nd of June. Saturn went retrograde on the 23rd of May, and Pluto was already retrograde. Jupiter will join the retrograde party on the 20th of June, and Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto stay retrograde until October. And I was looking down the timeline to October, and I thought, gosh, that's interesting, because Jupiter moves direct on the 6th of October, Saturn moves direct on the 11th of October, and Jupiter moves direct on the 18th of October. So within less than a 2-week period, we have a big shift in these three very, very important planets, outer planets. In addition to that, on the 20th of October, still just about within this 2-week band, there's a very powerful full moon at 27 of Aries, which is involving a T-square of the Sun, the Moon, Mars, and Pluto, all in cardinal signs. Wow, that is going to be a very powerful period. As well as Sagittarius, Libra is the other sign that is linked to the law. So we could see more legal cases coming to fruition around this time. There's something that shifts the trajectory going forwards in October, something that shifts it to potentially something that represents fairness and justice and equality, all those Libran words, more strongly at this time. I think the other thing to say as well here is, as that fork in the road becomes ever more clearly defined, and there could be more control, more rules around social media. Saturn in Aquarius. The other side of Saturn in Aquarius, particularly squared by Uranus, is we will put more energy into finding our tribe. We will put more energy into gathering with like-minded people, whether it's digital or physical, in person. That's starting to happen very strongly across the world. It will happen more and more, I think, with these synchronicities popping up. Oh, gosh, it's lovely to meet you. I can put you in touch with somebody who does X, Y, Z. That kind of thing. So be aware of that. We are all going to be finding our tribe of like-minded people very strongly through these next few months. So a lot in there. I covered a lot of ground in this video. I am putting it out a few days early because this eclipse period is so incredibly important for us. This year is a huge year of transition and evolution for humanity. So enjoy this solar eclipse in Gemini on the 10th of June. Remember, it's a big new beginning. Set a new intention, plant a new seed wherever this falls in your chart. If you'd like more information about my books, my teaching videos, my very long monthly newsletter, just check out my website, pamgregory.com. And thanks so much for listening. Bye for now.